Hey beauty lovers and fellow entrepreneurs, I'm Yegi, the owner and founder of Yegi Beauty. Within 5 years of being my own boss, I was able to grow Yegi Beauty into a multi-million-dollar company. This podcast is where I share what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in the beauty industry. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. Today we have Chris and Ben joining us from the UK, and they're going to let us know about their two businesses that they currently started and are running. So please, gentlemen, if you can introduce yourself, give our audience a little bit of a preview of what you guys do and why you decided to go on your own.
Yeah, so my name's Ben.
And my name's Chris.
And we're 19-year-old entrepreneurs based in the northeast of England in a small town called Darlington. And a little bit of the businesses.
Yeah. So we'll start off. So I mainly focus on the car side, the business is called Parkland Automobiles. And we specialise in modern classics, sort of like Mazda MX-5s and BMW Z3s.
And I focus solely on the property portfolio. So we've got 8 properties at the moment. And we utilise a creative acquisition strategy to provide mutually beneficial deal structures for vendors, landlords and homeowners. And that is the business in itself. So that's the two that we run at the moment.
Awesome. And how long have you guys been doing these two businesses?
So Chris and I came together in May 2021. So just over 14 months now.
So so we started the property business around that sort of time. Ben was focusing on that, and then we've actually set up a limited company with the cars as well, but that was a bit later on. That was December/January of 2022.
Awesome. So normally the real estate business and the car, especially used cars industry, is pretty hard to get into just on your own. A lot of times people work under a company, or they really are kind of stuck as being employees for these big, I guess, industries. It is hard to kind of make it on your own. So what sparked you guys' interest, and what are your kind of goals with trying to do the real estate and the used cars deal?
So I think it all started in school really, and I know it's definitely, especially in the UK, it's seen as an older generation type of business for property. So it's a lot more like the typical old grey-haired landlord that you see, not typical 19-year-old. So it was mainly just because upon research, you always seem to see the wealthy invest in real estate, and it's a common asset for them to invest in and just park their money in and just sort of get the recurring income. So it was something I just immersed myself into, and I believe, you know what, I'm going to stick at this and see how I can get in there at a young age.
And yeah, with the cars, I think, well, me and Ben both, but specifically me, because I started selling the cars, I've just always had a passion with cars, if it's been watching them, driving games or whatever. And then when it actually came to it, I thought, how can I make money out of a passion? And I just really put myself in the deep end, and I just thought, yeah, I'll try and buy a car and I'll make some money on it. And it's exactly what I did. And it's all just flown from there.
Oh, I love that. So you made what you love to do, you made it into a way you can earn revenue doing it.
Of course, yeah.
Exactly that.
Now, I love that. That's all we're about on this podcast. It's all about enjoying what you do, making money along the side, and like you said, Ben, seeing the opportunity of what the market needs as well, and kind of getting outside of that norm and cookie cutter approach and doing our own thing. And that's why I love having all sorts of guests on this podcast to share their story and spread kind of the encouragement for young entrepreneurs to see that, you know, this is something you really want to do. Even as a 19-year-old, you can get up and get started, right? Now, there is a big challenge into doing something on your own and getting started as an entrepreneur. So for you guys, what were some of the doubts or challenges that you faced starting out?
I think especially within property, there's so many moving parts, and there's a lot of sort of barriers to begin with, because a lot of people at this age, I don't want to sort of stereotype, but they don't take you sort of seriously at this age, especially in an older generational industry. But I think you just have to push past that, and there's always going to be rejection everywhere you go. And just because I'm 19, it may be a bit more difficult than usual, but it shouldn't hold me back whatsoever. So I thought I'd just fully commit to it.
And yeah, also similar with the cars, I think age is a very big thing in there, specifically when it comes to actually selling the car. Now, a lot of people that come to the buy of the car, that's a lot of their money, and it's pretty hard for some of them to put all their trust and all their money into buying a car off a 19-year-old. So yeah.
So how do you guys look past that? How do you try to not let that get in your way? Or have you come up with strategies to kind of not make your age a highlight of, the deals that you're making with the real estate or the cars?
Definitely, and I think maturity has to be a big thing. I think you definitely have to approach every scenario with maturity, because if you lack maturity, then they will see straight through it. And a lot of people, when we've spoke, although we do have pretty baby faces, they don't think of us as 19-year-olds, especially in conversation and especially over the phone. And a lot of like the business ventures that I do is via the phone. Some of them don't even meet me, to be fair, so which is even better for me because they won't see my age. But yeah.
And also, I think confidence and knowledge is a very big thing, because if you hold the facts and you show someone about the car, they obviously have a bit more understanding and trust actually in you, because
and trust in you. They probably trust you more. You know what you're talking about, and you know what you're doing. I think that's definitely a big selling point. And I actually faced the same challenges when I started out too. Not a lot of people know, but I think I was actually 19 years old when I had kind of my big grown-up job, and it was to be a student advisor and counselor for graduate and undergraduate students, which my students, and some people were like way older than me that I was advising them on what to do with their lives and their careers. And it was hard for me to kind of see myself as that. But I think for me, what helped too, because I was a lot of face-to-face with people, what I did is, like you said, know what I'm talking about, dress the part, act the part, really just carry yourself, and don't let that kind of be in your head, right? Just look past that. And I feel like it worked well for me too. If I looked past that, the people in front of me also looked past that, and they didn't second guess what I was saying.
Definitely, and just to sort of agree with that, it's definitely a solid foundation of knowledge that you'll need in order to give that confidence in them. And I think it's just major. Anything that you want to get into, or any industry, it's always just, it begins with education and building that knowledge base so you can portray that image across to anyone you're doing business with.
Okay, so another fun question, actually, just to get to know you guys a little bit better. I ask a lot of my guests this question, and it's not related to what you do, but just an outlook on the world. If there was one thing, if you had like a magic wand and you can change one thing in the world, what would it be? And it could be anything.
I'll let you go first so I can think.
Take a minute to think about this one.
I think it's a bit of a weird one, and I wouldn't really think of myself saying this, but I think, especially with how we've seen social media and other stuff, generally perceptions about us, I wish that there was a lot more positivity in the world. I think there's definitely, in this current age, it's a very pessimistic world, and we've seen that in a vast array from all our social medias.
Definitely, I agree with that one too. I'm all about trying to spread the positivity and change our mindset and outlook on things, and try to really get past all the negative medium.
Definitely, and I think it's sort of, I don't know, because it's always going to be around due to sort of egos, and obviously it's everyone's in the world, but I think we need to sort of look upon sort of the life differently and not keep up with the Joneses, because I think there's too much in society where people are trying to impress others that they may not necessarily even like, which is how the rat race is really created, to be honest. Get stuck with bills, overheads, because they're trying to impress others. I think that should be, if I could take it out of the world, if that made any sense.
I love that. I love those answers. I love how differently everybody answers, but wow, definitely two big issues that would make the world a much happier place if it was solved. But thank you for sharing that. Now, going back to being entrepreneurs, so if somebody wanted to get started in real estate or a used cars sales business, what advice would you give them as somebody who's interested in the industry and has no idea what to expect?
So the first thing I'd say with anything that you want to get into is set a goal. what you want to actually achieve, because that'll break it down to what industry you want to get into or what strategy, because there's so many different strategies and sort of ventures within a certain industry. Like for cars, you can like become a franchise, you can sell certain types of cars, or you could just become a used car dealer. Within property, there's so many different strategies as well. So it really does come down to your reason why in setting a goal, and then you can break it down. So I think that is definitely step one for anything, to be honest.
How did you guys get together into supporting each other with this businesses? Because it seems like each of you really focus on one side of the business or on one business, right? And then you guys support each other through this process. And that's what it seems like. And I actually love that, because I'm big on holding people accountable. So if you do have a peer who's going to kind of budge you and be like, hey, did you get this done? It's more likely that the person's going to get it done. So how did this partnership get started for you guys?
Well, it's a bit of a weird one.
It's a long story as well.
Yeah, it's a very long story. We've covered it on our podcast, but basically, I was focusing on the cars and Ben was focusing on the properties, and we were very good mates at school. And then we just messaged each other about how we were doing and general other stuff, and it all just came down to one meeting at a McDonald's near us, and we just said,
Nice.
Let's team up and let's see where this can go.
I love that. Well, I do wish you guys a mountain of success, and it looks like you guys have a good partnership. So that's very, very impressive and very difficult in business. So actually going into that, has there been any challenges between you guys if you agree on a certain thing or disagree on how you run a certain part of it? Because I know a lot of people are kind of get afraid, and me myself too, I was always afraid to get into a business with a partner or even a friend, because that could be kind of a reason why, things go south, because you always hear, you don't mix friends with business. But what are some of the pros and cons of that in your relationship?
Yeah, and sort of to second that as well, I think my family's big on don't get into business with family. But with me and Chris, because we've got such a strong bond since secondary school, it just made sense and it seemed right at the time. And of course, I'd still keep the same. We do dispute on certain things. Definitely. I wouldn't say it's not really decision making though, is it? Like, no, it's not in terms of decisions. It's sort of just certain roles and responsibilities. I think that's the only ever disputes we've had, but never decisions. I think we always agree. We've got a pretty similar outlook.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely great.
And what I think is brilliant about us is I think Ben's so disciplined and hardworking in what he does. And sometimes I've maybe gone a bit, but he's just always been there, and he always checks up and he always brings the accountability back. So if I ever am sort of lacking, or if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, Ben's always there to tell me, yeah, you should be doing that, or this is how you can improve in that way as well.
And it's a bit easier, because if it was sort of just a joint venture partner that we met and we didn't know each other for that long, it'd be much more difficult approach to sort of push in the right direction without taking it the wrong way and having egos to be like sort of hurt. But because of the bond, we can do it and not fall out.
Yeah, so what I take away from that, and from my experience too, I've noticed as long as you have a good relationship and set some ground rules of who's responsible for what area, it usually works better. But I think a good practice for some people out there too would be just literally sit down and break down the different aspects of the business, because a lot of times when people have disagreements about a certain area, that's when it can get challenging if you guys don't agree. So you've been very lucky that you guys see eye to eye and you agree on most of everything. But for some people, I am just for our listeners out there, what has worked for other partners is literally sit down and be like, okay, this is your responsibility, this is mine. We run things by each other, but at the end of the day, if we don't agree on a certain area, if this is my area, then I get the last word, last say in it. And if this is your area, you get the last word and last say. And we're happy about it, because that is like a system we set in place from the beginning. So I'm definitely impressed with your friendship. And I think that's another thing to take into account for our listeners out there too, is you want to take time and build a relationship and a bond with your partner before jumping into business together, to make sure that you're going to get along and have the same vision for what you're doing.
Definitely, and a lot of people do mention that within the industry, because you sort of, it's like you're getting, they use the phrase that you're getting into the bed with that person, so you really need to be careful because they're going to be on your credit file for that long. If anything was to happen, if like bankruptcy, anything like that, you really do need to be careful and sort of put your research in beforehand if you don't have that bond with them before. Because me and Chris, as I say, known each other like for so long, we already know we didn't need to do that. But definitely don't rush into any business ventures with a joint venture partner if you haven't put the sort of groundwork in beforehand.
Now, for people who usually have 9-to-5 jobs or regular day-to-day responsibilities with their work, it's interesting for them to see like what does a day in your life look like as entrepreneurs? Like how does your typical day look like, or are your days totally different from one another?
So it's actually funny you say that. So I'll let Chris go first, but his is very sort of with the cars. It's always fluctuating, and mine's very structured. But I'll let you.
Yeah. So for example, at the moment we've got a few cars on the go, and obviously not every day, but a lot of. Say if I do have someone that wants to view the car, I've got to put some prep in before it comes, make sure it looks good, make sure it drives well, and then once they come, I do the viewing. I'm as respectful as I am. And then if they end up buying it, that's good. If not, oh well. Back to drawing board. But also we're starting to get very big on social medias with all of our work rate on there. So we're putting out a lot of content on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. So a lot of my time at the moment is doing that. And there's also some other bits. But what about yourself, Ben?
And yeah, I think in terms of the property, I can be very structured. So I always have and I think it's the way my mind just triggers if I get out of routine. I don't like it. So I always wake up at the same time, work out at the same time, and then get into certain activities, whether that be marketing, sort of cold calls, social media. It's always at sort of similar times in the day. Just so I feel like it works for me, and you've got to find what works best for you. But I think that works for me, and yeah, just continue to do so.
Yeah, definitely a routine works for me too. Every single one of my day looks different, but having some sort of a routine per day of the week is very important for me to make sure I get the most done in my day. I feel like if I personally don't have a routine either, or at least have like my checklist for that day of the week, I'm less productive. And it's hard, right? As entrepreneurs, nobody's gonna be on top of you. Nobody's gonna tell you, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? No one's gonna make sure you get everything that you can get done. So it's up to you to keep up with your load, and that's kind of the beauty and also kind of the curse of being an entrepreneur, if you guys agree, is that no one's gonna hold you accountable. So that's a good thing about partnerships. So you guys hold each other accountable. But for most entrepreneurs, unless you are a self-starter and motivated and push yourself, it's gonna be hard to be successful. Now, actually talking about motivation and getting self-started, what are some strategies you guys use? Because I know for myself too, I have days where I don't feel like doing anything. I might be discouraged because something's not going the way I want it to go. What are some motivating factors that you guys use to kind of push yourself up and be like, okay, no, like I'm going to pick up the phone and do some more cold calls, or I'm going to make some more content for social media at least, to get the ball rolling?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, well, I think motivation's definitely a factor there, but I don't think it's only a very short-term boost. So I think habits in what we do, as we said, with routines as well, I think that's one of the main ways we keep ourselves going.
And as well, the main motivator is because yes, we've got two businesses at the moment, but we've got so many like sort of things in the pipeline. Some plates. I really can't speak it tonight. Some plates spinning in the background, and a lot more ventures to come. So I think because it is a very long-term thing with these two businesses, but what the intention is to systemize and then move on to the next thing. So once we get to where we want with these goals, then move on forward. So there's so many things we don't really want to be demotivated and take time off.
Okay, so when you were speaking with with the producer, and you guys were asking she was asking some questions, she mentioned that you guys learned from past mistakes in the industry. Did you guys want to share more about that story of what happened there, or do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I think with cars, it's obviously a lot different with the property, but a lot of with what I've had to do, I've found out myself. It's not really research from other people. People can tell you stuff, but you don't really learn from it until you actually do it. So normally a lot of the time it's come from actually buying the car. and then I'll have found out actually a few days later this has happened, and I didn't think it was there before the car, and it's so annoying. But what
Yeah, 'cause
happens
you
is in
don't
the future,
know.
yeah, but you make sure you add that to a checklist, and you make sure that when you're looking at a new car in the future, that you go through all the checklists and make sure that that car is perfect when you buy it.
So you constantly are evolving your system, basically. Like you said, you're adding new items to your checklist to make sure you don't miss it next time. So
Definitely.
anytime something happens, you're using it as a learning experience to grow and do it better the next time, right? You're not using it to get discouraged. Oh, I messed up. I didn't check. And the check engine light came on a week later.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, yeah.
That has happened to me actually when we bought cars. I'm a big fan of buying used cars. I think you get more value from them. So that has happened to us, and we've definitely learned from our mistakes. It'd be nice to have, expert and get advice before buying it. And I think that's where you guys come in too, right? You want to build that trust where people can trust you that whatever used car they're going to get from you, it's going to be reliable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well with young people, that's a very massive thing. I think older people generally know a lot more about cars and they're a lot more experienced, but with young people, they're a lot more scared of buying it. And we want to kind of install that knowledge within the younger generation.
Yeah, so speaking of building trust, now, are you doing anything specific with your branding in order for people to know that they can trust you with this aspect of it? Because I know it's a tricky thing to do with a business, but I was wondering if you have any strategies or any advice for other people who are trying to kind of set that message that, hey, I'm reliable, I'm trustworthy. Do you think there's something you're doing now that you're sending out that message, or is it going to be time and experience and word of mouth?
I think it's definitely a mix of both, because obviously the more track record you've got, the more time, the more trust you gain automatically. But a major thing, especially when just starting out, is to always document your journey online. So what me and Chris do is always sort of, they can see us on the camera. We're always speaking whenever on social media, because especially in the modern age, it's so easy to get a nice looking professional website, but there's no trust behind it. You can't see anyone, and people invest in people, and people buy from people. So they need to really trust you, trust your brand, and then sort of read into you as well.
Exactly. So you're putting your face and your trust and your guarantee behind it as a person. You're building that one-on-one connection.
Definitely, like more of a personal brand as well as a business brand.
Well, that's great. That was most of my questions and related to your business. Now, is there any last kind of word of encouragement you would give our young entrepreneur listeners out there? Actually, let's talk a little bit about the kind of elephant in the room always when it comes to starting your business. I think it's a huge one, and it's kind of difficult to talk about. And I know I'm going to spring this on you guys a little bit, but I'm curious to see what answers you have for me. But it's the financial aspect of it, right? So whenever you're starting a business, you can have great ideas, you can have great motivation, you can have the work ethic, and even sometimes the customers, but it's hard to get the financing in the beginning for those startup costs, or just kind of get you by until money keeps coming in. What was your experience with that, and or currently your experience, and what have you done to secure some funding?
I think majorly, and I preach it all the time, and I love the word, is delayed gratification. So me and Chris, we were both in full-time employment as well as doing the businesses on the side until we could eventually leave. So every month, rather than spending sort of enjoying time with friends, going out and just like partying and stuff like that, we were always just saving money and putting it to the side, putting it into the
Wow,
business.
that's hard to do as young men.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Definitely have to do the sacrifice, right? So later on you can get all the benefits from taking the savings and putting
100%.
it into business compared to going out and spending all the money.
Definitely, I think as well with sort of profits per month as well in the business, we always just reinvest. We don't take anything out. We don't pull any capital out. We always just reinvest every month on month.
And that's great advice. Now, as far as your current point, have you guys already been able to stop doing your regular jobs and fully invest in your own businesses, or you're still kind of trying to get there?
So we fully left employment now, and Chris is focusing solely on the cars, so I'm on the property, and then merging together, and
That's
we can just keep going.
exciting. Congratulations. That's a big one. That's really difficult to finally, take that leap and put your 100% time and energy into your own business. It's scary.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Was there any hesitation at first, or you guys were like, no, we're ready. We have money coming in. I'm just gonna put my full force behind my own business right now.
So I think on that end, I made a post about it. I think it was yesterday. It's solely, and I preach it: staying your 9 to 5 as long as possible, because I've noticed a lot of the younger generation, especially, always want to find the answer to leave the job quickly. And I don't think that's right, because there's so many cash flow issues, especially in a startup, and you always need that secure income. And the only time I'd recommend to leave your job is just when your schedule tells you to do so, when you physically have no more time to put into it. And exactly with Chris, he was the exact same, couldn't physically put any more time into it.
Okay, I love that. That's great advice. Now, well, thank you so much for sharing. I know that's always a tricky conversation to have when it comes to finances and starting a business. But any last word of advice or encouragement for our listeners?
I'll let you go first.
I think you've just got to get yourself out there. Honestly, a lot of people procrastinate with it, whether it's actually going out there and meeting people in the industry, networking. I think the main one nowadays is also social media. Now a lot of people are scared to actually do what they really want to do on social media because of like society, and we felt that with our very first post. But as soon as we started uploading more and more content, it's just become normal.
It's just second nature, isn't it?
And we don't have any regrets in business, and I wouldn't really say this is a regret.
That habit. It's almost like building the habit of posting or being true to yourself.
Yeah, and it's, as Chris was just going to say as well, I think the only regret sort of thing is not getting on social media soon enough. I think that would be the main thing we'd probably agree on.
Yeah, definitely. Even though it had only been like 6 months before or whatever, but even that time we could have got even more bigger on social media.
Well, it's never too late, and everybody has their time, and like you said, no regrets. You just wish you did that, but moving forward, I feel like everything has a timing. You probably were trying to find your exact, niche or what you want to do. So I think everything happens for a reason. So maybe when you got into it, it was the best time to get into it.
Of course, yeah.
All right. So can you tell everyone where they can find you? Give us a clear spelling of your social media, your website, and all of that good information. But we'll also link all the information below.
Perfect. So I'll start because I'll forget. So looking at mine. So my Instagram is benpickering03, and my Facebook is Ben Pickering. So I'll let Chris say the social.
So for my Instagram, it's Chris Hughes 2003, and then my Facebook is Chris Hughes, and then we've got a TikTok which is Day in the Life of Chris and Ben, and then we've got a YouTube which is only Chris and Ben. So we'll send you all the links, and there's a few.
And we'll make sure we display all of it on the screen and underneath, so people can take a screenshot and go search for your names.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Well, gentlemen, it was a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for being on our podcast. We look forward to seeing where your journey takes you, and continue success to you guys.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for having us as well.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.